The town of Briar Hollow did not appear on most maps. It existed the way mold existed inside walls, unnoticed until it had spread too far to ignore. It sat between a forest that never seemed to thin and a two-lane highway no one took unless they had missed a turn hours ago. The houses leaned slightly inward, as if listening to one another. Paint peeled, lawns went unmowed, not from neglect, but from a strange resignation, as though the residents had learned long ago that keeping things neat changed nothing. Ethan Ward arrived on a gray afternoon when the clouds hung low enough to feel reachable. He drove an aging sedan with a cracked dashboard clock permanently stuck at 3:17. He noticed that as soon as it crossed the faded "Welcome to Briar Hollow" sign, the clock flickered and went dark completely. He tapped it once, then twice, before giving up. It didn't feel important. He was 34, recently divorced, recently laid off, and recently exhausted by the sound of his own thoughts. When his Aunt Margaret had died, alone, quietly, without ceremony, her house in Briar Hollow was all she left him. No savings, no letters, no explanations. Just a house and a set of keys mailed in an envelope that smelled faintly of dust and something metallic. Ethan told himself this move was temporary, a few months at most. Fix the house, sell it, leave. That story felt neat and controllable, which was exactly why he repeated it. The house stood at the edge of town, where the road narrowed and the forest pressed close. It was taller than the others, narrower too, with dark wood siding that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The windows were tall and thin, like slits cut for watching rather than seeing. Ivy crawled up one side but avoided the front door entirely, as if repelled. Ethan parked and sat for a moment, listening. The town was quiet in a way that felt deliberate. No birds, no distant traffic, just wind moving through trees with a sound like breathing. When he stepped out of the car, the air felt cooler than it should have been. Not cold, just drained. He grabbed his bag, walked up the steps, and unlocked the door. The hinges groaned softly, not from rust, but from disuse. Inside, the house smelled old, but not rotten. Clean, almost, as if Margaret had kept everything exactly as it was and then simply stopped being there. The furniture was covered in white sheets. The floors were bare wood, polished smooth by decades of footsteps. A long hallway stretched straight back from the entrance, ending in darkness that the light didn't quite reach. Ethan felt a brief, irrational urge to close the door behind him quickly, as though something might follow him in. He didn't. The house creaked as he moved, responding not like a building settling, but like something adjusting. He told himself it was temperature change, old wood, imagination filling gaps. He had always been good at explaining things away. He dropped his bag in the living room and pulled the sheet off a couch. The fabric underneath was intact, no dust, no signs of decay. On the wall hung several framed photographs. Margaret stood in each one, always alone, always unsmiling. In some, she looked young and tired. In others, old and alert. The backgrounds changed, but her expression never did. One photograph caught his attention more than the others. It showed Margaret standing in the front yard, the house behind her. She was facing the camera, but her eyes were slightly off, looking past the person taking the picture, toward the side of the house, toward the trees. Ethan turned away. He explored the rest of the house slowly. Kitchen, dining room, a small study filled with notebooks stacked neatly but turned spine in so the titles couldn't be read. Upstairs were 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. The second bedroom was locked. He tested the handle once, then again harder. It didn't budge. That night, he slept downstairs on the couch. The house felt too watchful to sleep above it. He laughed at himself quietly as he lay there, staring at the ceiling. Grief did strange things to people. New places amplified it. That was all. Sometime after midnight, he awoke to the sound of footsteps. They were slow, measured, not on the stairs, on the floor above him. Ethan held his breath. The sound moved from one end of the upstairs hallway to the other, stopped, resumed. It wasn't pacing, it was walking with purpose, like someone moving from room to room. He told himself it was the house settling again, but the rhythm was wrong, too even, too deliberate. When the footsteps stopped directly above him, his chest tightened. A long moment passed, then something dragged lightly across the floor, not heavy, fingertips maybe, or nails. Ethan sat up so fast the couch creaked beneath him. The sound of stairs stopped immediately, as if listening. "Hello?" he called, his voice thin and dry. Silence answered. He didn't sleep after that. The next morning, he went into town. Briar Hollow's main street consisted of a grocery store, a diner, a hardware shop, and a post office with peeling paint. People watched him openly, not curious, assessing. At the diner, an older woman poured him coffee without asking what he wanted. Her hands trembled slightly. "You're Margaret's nephew," she said. Ethan nodded. "I am." "She's stayed too long," she replied, as if stating the weather. "Stayed where?" he asked. The woman met his eyes for the first time, then looked away. "You should replace the locks." "Why?" "Because she didn't." Before he could ask more, she moved to another table. At the hardware store, the man behind the counter sold Ethan new locks and a flashlight without speaking. As Ethan turned to leave, the man finally said, "If you hear it walking, don't answer." Ethan froze. "What?" The man shook his head once. "Doesn't matter. You won't listen anyway." That night, Ethan replaced the locks. All of them. Front door, back door, even the one on the locked upstairs bedroom, though he couldn't open it. Sleep came in fragments, short stretches punctured by waking dread. At 3:17 a.m., he sat up suddenly, heart racing, certain someone was standing in the hallway. No one was there, but the door to the locked upstairs bedroom was open. He hadn't unlocked it. From inside came a sound so soft it almost wasn't sound at all. Breathing. Ethan stood at the base of the stairs, one hand wrapped around the banisters so tightly his fingers ached. The house was dark except for the faint glow of the hallway light he had left on downstairs. It cast a thin, sickly stripe of illumination up the steps, stopping just short of the open bedroom door at the top. Beyond that, the darkness felt heavier, as if it had weight. The breathing continued, slow, controlled, too calm to belong to someone frightened. Ethan swallowed and forced himself to move. Each step creaked under his weight, the sound sharp in the silence. He expected the breathing to stop as he climbed, to retreat deeper into the room. It didn't. It remained steady, almost patient, as if waiting for him to reach the landing. When he reached the top, the smell hit him first. Not rot, not mildew, something faintly sweet and old, like dried flowers kept too long in a closed book. The bedroom door was fully open now. The room inside was bare except for a narrow bed pushed against the far wall and a tall wardrobe that leaned slightly forward. The walls were covered in faint scratch marks, shallow and numerous, layered over one another like a record of repetition. None were fresh. The breathing came from the wardrobe. His pulse hammered in his ears. He stood frozen, every instinct screaming at him to turn around, to run downstairs, to leave the house and the town and never look back. Instead, he took one step forward, then another. The wardrobe door was ajar by a few inches. "Margaret?" he whispered, hating the tremor in his voice. The breathing paused. For a moment, the silence felt worse. Then something shifted inside the wardrobe. Wood creaked softly, not under weight, but under pressure, as though something inside had leaned closer to the door. Ethan backed away. His heel caught the edge of the hallway rug and he stumbled, barely catching himself against the wall. The noise echoed louder than it should have. The wardrobe door closed slowly, gently, until it rested flush with the frame. No more breathing. Ethan did not go back upstairs for the rest of the night. At dawn, he packed a bag with shaking hands and drove until the forest thinned and the road widened. He didn't stop until he reached a gas station an hour away. He sat in his car with the engine running, staring at nothing, replaying the scene again and again, searching for a rational explanation that didn't feel like a lie. By noon, he convinced himself it had been a waking dream. Stress, grief, exhaustion layered on top of an unfamiliar house. He had read about things like that. The mind could manufacture sensations, sounds, smells, even movement when pushed far enough. He returned to Briar Hollow before sunset. The house looked unchanged, calm, almost welcoming in the fading light. That unsettled him more than if something had been visibly wrong. Inside, everything was exactly as he had left it. The locked upstairs bedroom was closed again. The new lock was